Yeah, so the excerpts from Joshua 2, 6, and Ruth, they're not really, well, there's a few excerpts, but mostly, I want to give a synopsis. The stories of Rahab and Ruth are legend. And sometimes that's a problem because we don't often believe we have to actually read the stories of the legends. We think we know them. So we miss details, or the context, or we miss, who knows what. There's not enough time for me to read Joshua 2 through Joshua 7 and Ruth. Go home. Do that. I know you will, I trust you. Rahab lived in the land of Jericho. She lived with her family and in the wall that protected the city. Rahab was a prostitute by trade. She was also a believer in Israel's God. When Joshua's spies came to Jericho, she took them in and she hid them. She lied to the king of Jericho so that the spies would live. And then she said to the spies this, I know that the Lord has given you the land and that dread of you has fallen on us and that all the inhabitants of the land melt in fear before you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the 2 kings of the Amorites that were beyond the Jordan to Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. As soon as we heard it, our hearts melted, and there was no courage left in us because of you. The Lord your God is indeed God, in heaven above, and on earth below. Now then, since I have dealt kindly with you, swear to me by the Lord that you in turn will deal kindly to me and my family. Give me a sign of good faith that you will spare my father and my mother and my brothers and my sisters and all who belong to them and deliver our lives from death. Then the men said to her, our life is yours. If you do not tell this business of ours, then we will deal kindly and faithfully with you when the Lord gives us the land. And then they told her to tie a crimson cord out of her window so that the lives of her and her family would be spared. So she let the spies down by a rope of that same window, which is on the outside of the wall. When the army came to attack Jericho, she and her family were spared because she tied that crimson cord. Now, just as a side note, I want to point out the crimson cord that Rahab was to let down because of her faithfulness to the God of Israel. It's funny how we have reinterpreted that symbol. This is one example of how legend can change the meaning of things over time. A crimson cord turns into a red light, and its meaning is changed entirely. The symbol of the crimson cord was because Rahab and her family's life were to be spared. Now, the story of Ruth is a little more difficult to make condensed. Basically, Ruth was a Moabite who was married to a Jew named Chilion, who had moved to the land of Moab with his family due to a famine. And he died along with his brother and his father, leaving all their wives widowed. And that was a serious concern for these women. While Naomi, the mother-in-law, bid them to go their own way to save themselves, Ruth refused. She said, your people will be my people. And she went back to the land of Judah with Naomi. She never faltered in her devotion. In time, she heard of Boaz, a slightly distant relative to her dead husband. She gleaned in his field. And he was good to her. He even told his workers to kind of break off parts of the plant and leave them behind so she could glean from them. To ensure financial and cultural security, when Naomi found out what was happening, she said, "Ruth, offer yourself to Boaz." When she did this, he said to her, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. This last instance of your loyalty is better than the first. You have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not be afraid. I will do for you all that you ask. For all the assembly of my people know that you are a worthy woman. But now, though it is true that I am a near kinsman, there is another kinsman more closely related. Remain this night, and in the morning, if he will act as next of kin for you, then good. Let him do it. If he is not willing to act as next of kin for you, then as the Lord lives, I will act as next of kin for you. Lie down until the morning." And Ruth and Boaz ended up married. Both Rahab and Ruth were not Jews. These women could have been considered skeletons in Jesus' closet. As the names were listed off, not every single name was listed in either gospel that names the ancestors of Jesus. So you know that every single name that was put in there on purpose, for a reason. These women were honored. They were not considered skeletons. They were honored because of their faithfulness, their loyalty. They were embraced, brought into community so that they were no longer aliens in a foreign land. Today is the Sunday of Advent when we celebrate joy. How do these stories then bring us joy? In many ways, I think it depends on who we are and what is important to us. For instance, there may be times when any one of us feels like an outsider, an imposter. We claim to be Christian, but if we feel like if anyone really know who we are, boy, they'd find out the truth, we would be totally exposed. We may feel like we are the skeleton, or that we have skeletons, which would, well, embarrass us at best if they were revealed. The stories of Rahab and Ruth remind us that all of those self-imposed or culturally imposed standards are hogwash. That's a good church word, isn't it? Hogwash. You are not a skeleton. I declare that. You are not a skeleton. And those things or people you or others may deem as skeletons in your lives are probably not. That's not to negate true wrongs that may have been done in families, neighborhoods, or anywhere. I'm talking about so-called standards that promote shame and internal violence. These are the skeletons I'm addressing today. The gift of Rahab and Ruth, being in the lineage of Jesus Christ, is that if we see ourselves as outsiders, then we can rest assured that there is a place for us. That gives me joy. No one is excluded from the lineage of Jesus based on their status, not then or not now. I guess that's why I love our UCC logo, no matter who you are, no matter where you are on life's journey, you're welcome here. Because the ancestry of Jesus says that. With all of the names listed. The ones that were stalwart and steady, although somewhat sinful like King David. He had his embarrassing moments. But still, he was considered a stand-up guy. He was a man after God's own heart. From them, Solomon, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, again, along with their problems. And then these women who were foreigners. And then when you read in other books, it says, do away with your foreign wives. And yet, in the account of Jesus' ancestry, here are foreign women who were embraced by the community. So we have to take everything into context about what was important. Core value, no one is excluded. Not then. Not now. To that I say, joy to the world.